Hi everyone, it's Dr. Nitch, and I just wanted to present the video I promised about successful response essay. This is an essay I received last semester, and I just want to highlight some of the good work this essay is doing. I think it will help people revise their personal response essays if they want better grades. It'll also helps people think about writing the last essay of the class, which is another response. So it may just be useful to have an example of what the structure looks like. So let's look at it. We're going to start with the introduction. I'll read it, and then I'm just going to kind of take apart what it's doing for you and leave some notes so that you can see the commentary that I'm sharing. So many of the diseases that Americans face are attributed to the diet they follow. Michael Pollan, author of Escape from the Western Diet, expresses the need to change one's diet to benefit their health, opposed to relying on medical treatments to treat an ailment that was caused by Western eating habits. Although the medical industry mentions the importance of healthy eating because so much profit is made off medical drugs, treatments and drugs, the push for medical treatment is higher than the push for an overall diet change. I agree with Michael Pollan's statement that changing our eating habits can completely change the health of an individual. From my personal experience, I witnessed the way my body and my mother's body react to a healthier way of eating. So this is that first sentence that just sets up the context of the argument. So let me put that in the comment form. I'm sorry, I have to move the mic to type, and it might be a little loud in the typing, but this sentence introduces the topic of the essay: eating, diet, and health. And then it introduces the reading, the author, and the idea that the student is responding to. I asked this student to include more of Michael Pollan's argument in the summary, but even just having these ideas here and here was enough. So let me do this so it's a little clearer. This is that first. Sorry, I just keep wanting to grab too much. This is just one sentence setting up the context. And then after that, these sentences are about Michael Pollan's argument. I said to give us when I commented on her paper originally, give us a little more. And then this is really important. You have to end your introduction with your thesis. In a response paper, your thesis needs to say whether you agree or disagree. So intro ends with the statement of the thesis. Agreeing with Pollan for personal reasons. And that makes sense because your evidence is supposed to be personal. So that's a successful introduction. I want to show you then I'll read the rest of the paper, and then we'll break down one of the body paragraphs. A couple of you struggled with having really long body paragraphs, and these are nice and short and focused, and that's what you want to write. They also do a good job, the student did a good job of keeping Michael Pollan in the discussion throughout the paragraphs and not just mentioning Michael Pollan once and then talking about their story and then forgetting about him, or just a big paragraph talking about different personal stories and no Michael Pollan at all. So this is how you kind of weave the reading, the ideas of Michael Pollan with your own evidence from your life. So here's the rest of the paper. The overall argument in Escape from the Western Diet is that Michael Pollan believes the best way to eat is a primarily plant-based diet, smaller portions, and to eat real food. I wholeheartedly agree with Pollan. Eating a wholesome, clean diet changed my life completely. I went from having no energy and was borderline sick to completely healthy in a matter of just a few months after my diet changed. Just as Pollan mentioned in his writing, it wasn't an easy task to try to go from processed foods to trying to consume foods free of any processing, but the health benefits are immense. Michael Pollan argues that to eat well, one must also invest more time in their meals than what probably they typically than what time spent now is. Probably get rid of that word. I agree with Pollan's statement of investing more time in the choices of meals they intend to eat. After living in a very small town with limited access to fresh foods due to the inflated price of produce, along with the fast pace of the job I had at the time, it was nearly impossible for me to cook a healthy meal on a daily basis. After being used to eating a primarily clean diet, going to a highly processed one made it very easy to see the effects it had on my body. Pollan would believe, just as I do, that a small-town diet is what was making me sick. Pollan argues that one set diet doesn't need to be followed to have a healthy lifestyle. Although I do agree with most of Pollan's ideas, I personally believe that following a specific diet or lifestyle can be an easy start to transforming the way you view food and how to prepare your meals. Back when my mother was facing a few health issues, she spent a few weeks at an intensive lifestyle retreat with a doctor who believes in an all plant-based diet with no fats or oils. Following that specific diet completely transformed her health and the way she thought about foods. Even though now she doesn't follow it completely, she now adds in some animal-based products and fats every so often. Her body was immense. I do believe with Pollan that the Western way of eating is what caused the health effects my mother did experience. But the diet she followed, or he said the theory of a certain type of diet, that this one being plant-based with no foods or oil, isn't just a theory. It was proof that after many medical tests, that following a new diet can and will change your health. In conclusion, I believe in Michael Pollan. I believe in what Michael Pollan wrote in Escape from the Western Diet. I believe that to live a healthy life, you need to transform the way you view food, changing the way you look at food and spending more time preparing and finding less processed and more whole will not only help the way your body functions on a day-to-day basis, you can avoid the chronic medical problems many Americans face on a daily basis, leaving you with a healthy future so you can enjoy your life. So let's look at this one because it's kind of an interesting one. In all of her body paragraphs, I asked her to give me some connectors in the beginning because the paragraphs felt a little separate. So I'll give you an example of one. In addition, or no. Because this paragraph is a little different, she's kind of disagreeing with him. I would set us up for that disagreement. Although I do agree with most of Michael Pollan's ideas, I personally believe that you don't even need this sentence. You could just go right there. But to break this paragraph down, here's her topic sentence. And if you notice, topic sentence ties back to her thesis, agreeing with Pollan. It considers a specific idea from Pollan's argument that one specific diet isn't needed. So she's saying, I kind of disagree with Michael Pollan's argument here. And then she has lots of great personal evidence right here, relevant about her mother, right? Personal evidence about her mother. Relevant because it is about how a specific diet did improve her mother's health. And then this part is really important. This is sort of the framing of the information. Student explains how her evidence, the story of her mother's trip to the pipe. trip to the retreat space improved your health. Relates to pollen. So she begins by talking, and you need to do that in all your body paragraphs. Your evidence kind of shows up in the middle. And you can have a little bit of evidence and some explanation and a little bit of evidence and some explanation. Or you can kind of just have a chunk of evidence and then a chunk. But notice she doesn't have a bunch of different stories. It's just one, and it's not long. It's just 3 sentences long, and that's perfect. Because if she had 3 or 4 stories in this paragraph, she would have to be writing a lot of evidence, almost another full paragraph. And that's just asking your paragraph to do too much work. So really paragraphs are focusing on one specific idea, just a short amount of relevant evidence, so that evidence is related to that idea. And then how you have to tell the reader how that evidence is related. You can't just assume the reader is going to figure it out. So this essay it had some work it still had to do. It had to work on connectors. It had to include more in the introduction. Because she's slightly disagreeing here, I asked her to change the thesis a little bit. But in terms of the body paragraphs in particular, it does exactly what you need to do. This is how you need to think about how evidence gets used in a paragraph. The evidence always has to be, as the quotation chapter talked about, it has to be framed. So you have to begin with the idea in the topic sentence that you want to prove is true, and then the evidence comes soon thereafter to make the idea clearer, to prove that your idea is true. And then the last part of the frame that comes after the evidence is you explaining that this evidence supports this topic sentence, right? This diet wasn't just a theory. This diet actually did make her life better. So that is the work that you have to do. If it's still unclear how to formulate these body paragraphs, do let me know. But I hope that that helps clarify some of the issues that I saw in people's papers. A lot of people I told to rewrite the body paragraphs. And so if you're going to do that, make sure you watch this video, have just this visual out in front of you, and make sure you have these 3 parts: topic sentence, evidence, explanation. And if you have that, then you know you have a strong body paragraph. If you have just a topic sentence and lots of evidence, you know you're in trouble. If you have just a topic sentence and lots of explanation and no evidence, then you know you're in trouble. You want all 3, and they really shouldn't be longer than 8 sentences, your paragraphs. So if they're longer, you probably have too much evidence or too much explanation. As always, let me know if you're still struggling. I hope that helps. And look shortly for a video explaining the synthesis essay. Thank you. That's coming up. Thanks.